This Friday on the Radio 5 Live movie show that I do with Simon Mayo between 2 and 4, our special guest is Sir Ridley Scott. He's coming in to talk about Prometheus. Now, I have tried really hard to avoid watching trailers for Prometheus, reading articles about it. I'm very excited, I'm very trepidatious. I want it to be good. I'm seeing it on Wednesday. And on Friday, you'll hear from Ridley Scott and you'll hear my review of Prometheus. But in the run-up to the opening of Prometheus, what better time than to give you my 5 favourite Ridley Scott films? So, at 5, and not a popular choice, I understand, White Squall. Now, when this film first came out, an awful lot of critics dismissed it as drowned poet society. And the fact of the matter is, there's an awful lot wrong with White Squall, but there's a lot right with it. 2 things. Firstly, it's clearly a very personal project for Ridley Scott. I remember interviewing him when the movie was just coming out, and he said it was a film about the transition from boyhood to manhood, about a rite of passage, which, in his word, we have now lost. And secondly, even the people that don't really rate White Squall all agree that it does feature the best boat capsizing sequence ever captured on film, ever. And I include in that the Poseidon Adventure. At 4, another potentially controversial choice, Black Hawk Down. I remember very clearly being on Newsnight Review when Black Hawk Down came out and being the sole voice defending the film against accusations that it was racist, which it isn't, that it's mechanical and incoherent, which it is, but that's kind of the point. See, for me, the genius of Black Hawk Down is this. It's a film which takes star faces like Josh Hartnett and Ewan McGregor and throws them into a mad wartime situation in which you genuinely cannot tell which is which, who is who. You can't follow single character arcs. Now, it seems to me that that's the point of the film. It's a film about the chaos, about the fog, about the madness of war. It's also Ridley Scott's most nihilistic film to date, and for that, I will stand by it. At 3, Alien, still for me the best of the Alien movies, although bear in mind I haven't seen Prometheus yet, although remember, Prometheus is not an Alien prequel, apparently. What do I love about Alien? Well, extraordinary design by H.R. Giger, a wonderful script by Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett, fantastic central performances from Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt and John Hurt, and, of course, some genuine moments of shock. When I made a documentary about Alien, Ridley Scott talked about watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the run-up to prepare for that film. When it was first advertised in cinemas, it was described as The Exorcist in space. That's something very hard to live up to, but I think it does it. At 2, Thelma and Louise. It's interesting, one of the accusations that is most regularly thrown at Ridley Scott is that he's not an actor's director. He's a technician. He's somebody who beautifully understands how to light a scene, how to compose, how to orchestrate, but somehow actors aren't his forte. Well, Thelma and Louise was the film that proved that to be utter nonsense. 2 fantastic characters working from a brilliant script by Callie Curry, but a film which drew us right into their world. It's interesting that when Thelma and Louise came out, everybody said, how surprising that Ridley Scott should have made a character-based film. In fact, all his films are character-based. It's just that sometimes you notice just how well he's worked with the actors. The idea that he is not an actor's director is rubbish. You want proof? Ask any of the actors he's worked with the exception of Harrison Ford, which leads me to number 1. Yes, there's no prizes for guessing that my favourite Ridley Scott film to date is Blade Runner. But which version of Blade Runner? The film has been multiply recut over the years. There are some people who will insist that the original theatrical version, with that voiceover, Harrison Ford explaining, "My name is Deckard and I am an android hunter," and the happy ending is actually better. Myself, I prefer the director's cut, which takes away the voiceover, has the harsher ending, and indeed restores the unicorn, which is the key to the fact that Deckard himself is an android. How do I know this? Well, made a documentary some years back in which Ridley Scott said on camera, the unicorn means that Deckard is an android. Now, interestingly enough, this is not a theory that has ever been embraced by Harrison Ford himself, who to this day remains very reticent about talking about Blade Runner, which is strange, because in any version, it's an extraordinary vision, a wonderfully realised future world. In fact, arguably, one of the 5 best science fiction films ever made. Then again, I haven't seen Prometheus yet. Fingers crossed.
Take us round.
Bringing it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Prometheus has landed.